discuss tonight. We've got Les Moonves lawyering up.
You should always lawyer up in this kind of situations.
Yeah, HollywoodReporter.com says Les Moonves is gearing up for a fight over sexual misconduct allegations in a big way. According to multiple sources, CBS chief executive has hired Daniel Petrocelli to represent him in the ongoing internal investigation. Earlier this month, CBS announced that former SEC Chair Mary Jo White at Debevoise and Plimpton and ex-federal prosecutor Nancy Kestenbaum at Covington and Burling would be leading the probe. The examination into Moonves' conduct follows a July 27th New Yorker expose that detailed how Moonves allegedly made unwanted sexual advances on several women employed by CBS. Thanks to his employment contract, Moonves will have to cooperate with investigators, but he will be coming with a big legal gun by his side. Petrocelli's most recent success was successfully defending the merger between AT&T and Time Warner upon the government's antitrust lawsuit. He became famous in the late 1990s, winning a civil lawsuit against O.J. Simpson on behalf of the family of Ron Goldman. Since then, he has participated in other high-profile matters, including representing Jeffrey Skilling in the former Enron CEO's criminal trial and handling the Trump University fraud case on behalf of Donald Trump. Deadline also reports, Deadline Hollywood reports Petrocelli was a lawyer for Donald Trump in a pair of class action lawsuits against Trump University. The sides reached a settlement agreement in March 2017. Currently, Petrocelli is repping 20th Century Fox in its employment contract dispute with Netflix. So, what are your thoughts, Larry?
Well, at this point, you're being investigated, you have to have a lawyer. That's just the way it works. It's like you're in a car accident. Technically, you don't need a lawyer to sort out your bills with the car accident, but generally speaking, if you don't have a lawyer working for you, you'll end up being in trouble.
Yeah, pretty much. What really is telling about this is that he is lawyering up so big time. You don't hire this kind of lawyer if there isn't something to the allegations.
I mean, realistically, if he wanted to look more positive, he should have hired Lanny Davis, who has a much better sort of rep for this sort of thing.
Yeah, and for viewers at home watching this, can you kind of explain who Lanny Davis is?
Lanny Davis is a lawyer who focuses on crisis management, and he became really famous for that when he was a lawyer for Bill and Hillary Clinton during the whole impeachment, Monica Lewinsky, Paula Jones issue they had back then. He also was a big person involved in trying to help Penn State University sort out the trouble they were in following Joe Paterno. And he wrote a big book on it, and one of his first things is the easiest way to resolve these kind of crises in management is to be transparent, is to own up to things, is to hold people accountable.
And more than that, not commit the crime in the first place. That helps.
Well, yeah.
But apparently no one gave Moonves or anybody else accused of sexual harassment over the past few years the memo. So yeah, this is... Yeah, no one gave him the memo not to do this in the first place. And if you are going to go ahead and do this, then... I don't know. It's like his brain shut off and he began thinking with his dick. And so now it's all coming out. And, you know, what now?
That I honestly don't know because, again, it gets complicated because... these sorts of relationships have been a part of the business for so long, and cultural standards have changed the way they have. It's very difficult to say.
Yeah, it is. And I'm still trying to figure out how this is going to affect the merger between CBS and Viacom, because, like I said, Sherry Redstone has been very vocal in calling for a Moonves to step down or to be removed. She's got her own plans for CBS, along with Viacom and Paramount. So, this seems to be like Moonves is really just trying to delay the inevitable. Because I don't see how he survives this. I mean, yeah, Petrocelli's a scary guy. He's won a bunch of high-profile cases. But, when something is this obvious, because again, this was originally broken last month by Ronan Farrow, who covered the Harvey Weinstein allegations. And he's not the sort of reporter who, doesn't have a bulletproof case.
Well, we don't really know yet what the case is. So that's why we have to kind of take a little bit of a moment on this, because again, we don't know what evidence is out there. We have a lot of allegations. What's his face from the Walking Dead podcast TV show thing that they have? He recently he got investigated, and after AMC did their due diligence, they found out he wasn't guilty of what he was accused of. But still, people are pulling out of that show who are working there. So, again, even if Moonves didn't do what he's being accused of, the bigger question is, in our current climate, can CBS keep him in a position of authority?
Yeah, that's actually the question. Because I don't see how this actually helps.
Because you really have to look at it from the broader aspect of what most people don't know is that lawyers and big organizations want uniformity. Because you're not going to be sued if you follow your own rules consistently, even if your own rules are stupid. So if the guy at the top isn't following the rules, that means all the other things that may be happening on a day-to-day basis could get raised to a higher level of a threat. So for CBS to protect itself, they may have to kick him out.
Yeah, I think at this point they're going to have to eventually. It seems like Moonves is really just kind of delaying the inevitable, because really this gives CBS a black eye at a time when it's struggling just to remain independent from Viacom. Sherry Redstone has a controlling interest in CBS, so she's a major stakeholder in the company. And really the only reason she hasn't successfully taken over by this point is because Moonves does have some powerful allies on the board. But, the longer this goes on and the more stuff comes out, the more tenuous his position is going to be. And people are going to start jumping ship over at CBS from his camp over to Redstone's, because they're going to see, what side of the bread their butter is on. And it's probably not going to be with Moonves for much longer. But at the same time, though, Petrocelli, does have a reputation for winning cases, especially high-profile ones, and Moonves is also infamously vindictive because of what he did to Howard Stern, because of how he's gone after other people who have ticked him off. So, yeah, we're going to have to see what happens here. And moving on to our next story, we've got something really interesting, because Crunchyroll is coming out with its own TV show.
This is actually, they've done a couple of smaller ones of these, but this is the first really, it's not even an anime-inspired art style, though we've not seen a lot of the art yet. It's better than the average CalArts art style, but it's that same sort of cheap, low-quality animation. But they're focusing on their in-house animation brand now, and they're building the studio that is touting itself as a diverse workplace with equal numbers of men and women working there. And all the writers are women, and all of the voice actresses are women.
And all white, too, so not quite as diverse.
Yeah,
because Engadget.com...
I didn't see any color in that room.
Yeah, Engadget.com says, seemingly every streaming service is moving into original programming, and AT&T-owned Crunchyroll is next to take a swing at it. Elation Studios, also owned by AT&T, will start producing original shows for the anime streaming service, starting with High Guardian Spice next year. Further details will be revealed at September's Crunchyroll Expo in San Jose, according to TechCrunch, but for now we know the show is about 4 girls at the magical High Guardian Academy, where they'll train to become defenders of the city. Sounds a little like Hogwarts. The show will have an all-female writer's room, and if you want a sneak peek, check out the video embedded below. Well, I'm not going to do that because it sucks. Because, in my opinion, and, I'm all about diversity, but if you have to sell the show based on no more than how diverse it is, that tells me that you really don't have the confidence in your own story to let it sell itself. Where you have to focus on the identity politics, the pandering to a certain demographic, oh, we're so diverse. Well, I'm less concerned about that than I am about how good is the story. And right now I'm just not convinced that they've got something that's worth bothering with. Because if this is all they have to sell it with, then, what are they making?
Also interconnecting to the fact that a lot of the traditional Japanese producers are part of this global media consolidation that's going on. Recently, Funimation, which has produced a lot of the more famous anime that have been distributed in America, they've been purchased by Sony, and other big studios are being sniffed at by large global media companies. So we also are running into the risk that eventually, as this progresses, we're not going to have a Japanese production of animation anymore, and it's going to become more and more homogenized.
Yeah, and I'm already noticing somewhat of a decline in quality of Japanese animation, at least some of the shows I've been watching, because a lot of it just starts to kind of all blur together. But here's from Funimation's own website about the purchase by Sony, which has bought them out.
Which was last year.
Yeah, that was last year. Updated October 27, 2017. Now, the original post says, founder Gen Fukunaga started Funimation with a vision and a mission to make anime as accessible as possible to fans across the world. In the 23 years since we began, we have been committed to creating anime experiences fans love, from bringing Dragon Ball to the United States, to bringing the best anime to home video and theaters, to simuldubs that bring episodes in English to fans within 2 weeks after they air in Japan, to the world's largest dubbed streaming catalog on Funimation Now. Today we announced that Funimation has agreed to sell a substantial majority stake to Sony Pictures Television Networks. SPTN is one of the preeminent names in entertainment and shares our vision to deliver anime to fans globally across all screens and platforms. So they basically sold out to Sony. Crunchyroll is owned by AT&T, and it just seems like a lot of this is really just getting so corporatized and homogenized, like you said, that I'm not really seeing a whole lot of upsides to this, because supposedly High Guardian Spice is going to be done in Flash. Well, Flash is a medium that's really being pushed aside in favor of other stuff.
Well, Flash is going out of business, although Crunchyroll doesn't seem to understand that, because that's what they still use. But the big thing that is being used now is something called Rooster Teeth. And they've been a couple of different cartoon shows have used that. RWBY is one of the big ones that's used that. Red versus Blue has used that, and it's the new cheap animation tool. It's very likely that this new Star Wars Rebels is being used with a very similar platform of animation for that.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. Because it just seems to me like if you're trying to do original content and your primary tool for streaming that content is something that's outdated, no longer being updated, and is basically falling by the wayside. I mean, because there's already been complaints about how Crunchyroll actually functions because of the way it's set up. Like the autoplay feature, for example, if you stop watching in the middle of something, come back to it later on, it won't actually let you start over from the beginning if you want. It actually starts off at the point you left off, whether you want to or not. So that's just one of the shortcomings that Crunchyroll has had over the last few years, and it just seems like there's no effort at AT&T to actually improve the service. And now they're trying to come out with new content that, frankly, I don't see how people are really going to want to watch this if the software that they're using is deprecated and is no longer viable.
Yeah, and that's a very concerning trend, and right now a lot of anime fans have been pushing back against Crunchyroll's current direction, though. Some fans are saying, well, realistically, Crunchyroll's contribution to the industry, because they're spending a lot of it on their convention, and then they're dividing it up across pretty much everybody that they have contracts with, it's not that big, but it gets into the whole conflict with, pirating versus non-pirating in the fan base.
Yeah, and that to me just speaks volumes about the state of Crunchyroll, because, and I will admit, I do get a lot of my stuff from torrents because I can't afford to shell out for Crunchyroll or pretty much. But although I will try and buy the stuff, once it comes out on DVD, because I do want to support the official release whenever I can. But, as far as streaming services, and granted, they do have to pay their bills too, all right? And, I'm not saying don't subscribe to Crunchyroll or anything else that requires a payment, but you want to make sure that you're getting the best for your money. And if you're not getting the best for your money, well then, I'm sorry, but there's only so much that people should have to shell out for something that doesn't provide what is being promised. And so, I'm looking at this picture on the screen for High Guardian Spice. Animation looks vaguely anime-like. They try to get it right, but it still looks it still looks like an American anime as opposed to Japanese. It's very clearly designed to try and blend Japanese manga style with American artwork, and it just doesn't quite work. It doesn't look authentic anime.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that I can see they're trying to be inspired by it, but at least right now it's super generic, and they should have probably taken, a little bit more time to make something a little deeper.
Yeah, they probably should have, and at that point, it's like, guys, what are you doing?
Now, I do want to mention one other thing that came out, is the creator of She-Ra apparently said that she's basing characters, and probably She-Ra, knowing the way these things work, off of her D&D character.
Oh boy.
Here we go. It's actually on Slash Film, where I saw this. D&D, new She-Ra series creator adapted her own Dungeons & Dragons character for the show. I'm going to just cut down to it here. It says that at New York City's FlameCon, the largest LGBTQ geek-centered geek convention, Stevenson revealed that when she found out that her Dungeons & Dragons character and a character on She-Ra shared the ability to teleport, she decided to bring her D&D character to the small screen. Stevenson said that D&D roots allowed her to flesh out her character as someone who doesn't have great impulse control based on her own stumbles and characters in-game. So she adapted a Tiefling Warlock into a similar character trope archetype that was being built into She-Ra. And while this isn't the main character, this is likely a support character. That just doesn't really seem like they're confident in their own product.
Right, and Stevenson is quoted admitting I steal a lot from characters I've made from Dungeons and Dragons, adding, I pull so much inspiration from D&D because how do you embody these characters? How do you embody it when you have a mission for these characters and you go and you figure it out from there? Okay, so clearly she's not quite grasping the concept that if you keep stealing from other stuff, eventually you're going to get in the shit can. Because what's happening with STD right now?
Yeah.
Facing a lawsuit for ripping off a video game?
Now, at least in her case, she's basing this off of a character she created within the framework of the game. So that's at least something. But it's really expressing a lack of confidence in her own product because she's trying to use the Renaissance in Dungeons and Dragons to try to build interest in the show. And not, sell the show.
Right, which, to me, it's like... I don't know. I have to think, what are these people thinking?
I think, you definitely run the risk of plagiarism if you do something like that. And that's something you should be concerned about if you're in a creative position.
Yeah, but definitely.
You're going to recycle characters if you're somebody who does a lot of role-playing games and things like that. There are going to be elements of characters that are going to be recycled. Just so long as you don't do what that one guy did in the new Powerpuff Girls, you'll be fine. One of the writers in the new Powerpuff Girls had a character that looks remarkably like him, that only appears in episodes that he writes, who's Blossom's boyfriend.
Yeah.
And of course, he's a grown adult. Blossom is a kid in, I guess, middle school now. I haven't really watched the new one.
Yeah, that does seem, it does seem pretty shady.
And when asked about it, other writers said, oh yeah, we did this as a joke. We thought it would be funny.
Yeah, not quite as funny as you might think, guys.
Yeah. Also, there's the whole controversy that Angry Joe got into over Battlefield 5. Well, DICE, the production company that made the game, said it's a shame that they didn't add women in Battlefield 1, except they had women in Battlefield 1 which you could play as characters as well as in the multiplayer mode.
Yeah, that... Oy vey. It just keeps getting more and more bizarre by the day. Because, and it seems like our stream is trying to get started.
All right.
Yeah, it says we're live. All right, so yeah, for anyone actually tuning in, we are
watching us on tape, on tape delay.
Yeah, well, I'm going to upload the full recorded version after we're done here. But yeah, we've been talking about Les Moonves and his troubles. And they are troubles indeed, because he is lawyered up big time. And that is Daniel Petrocelli, who has defended, of all people, Donald Trump over his Trump University fraud scam.
And he was also involved with the AT&T merger. What wasn't that the other big case you mentioned?
He was involved in the O.J. Simpson civil suit representing the family of Ron Goldman. So what we're seeing is a guy who's got a reputation for winning cases. And he's going ahead and representing Les Moonves. Because right now Les Moonves is in a whole lot of trouble. He has been basically accused of sexual harassment, serial sexual harassment, and acts that qualify in my book as sexual assault over a period of 30 years, from the 1980s to the late 2000s at least. He's not been prosecuted criminally, primarily because of the statute of limitations, but he has, because of his contract, he is obligated to cooperate with the investigation. And so what ends up happening is that the FEC is getting involved. They are bringing in people, for example, Mary Jo White, who is the Securities and Exchange Commission chair. Now, Mary Jo White was a former federal prosecutor herself who, according to Richard Clarke, Bill Clinton's terrorism czar, could indict a ham sandwich. And then, of course, we've got Nancy Kestenbaum and others who are looking into this. So it looks like there is possibly something actually here. And Moonves would not be bringing Petrocelli into this if there weren't something to defend against.
Yeah, but again, as I was saying before when we had this on tape, organizations, big organizations, need to have consistency in their rules. If they're not following their own rules, that's where they get into legal liability. So it really doesn't matter if things were done correctly or incorrectly, just as long as they were done consistently. So Moonves needs to protect himself as CBS is trying to find out what they need to consistently do.
Yeah, that's that's basically what they need to be doing, because and I understand that they need to protect their investment, but when it gets to the point where the allegations are this strong, then something's got to give, because Moonves, like I said, he's trying to protect his job. And this is at a time when CBS is in talks to merge back into Viacom along with Paramount. And Sherry Redstone, who is the Viacom head and who owns a controlling interest in CBS, really doesn't want Moonves there anymore. So, yeah, we're looking at, it's basically a clusterfuck for Moonves.
Mm.
And I'm looking at some streaming problems here where it says we're live, but it says an error
occurred.
Then it
crashed.
Yeah, so I'm trying to adjust the bit rate here, see if we can't bring it something. Because everything that everything seems to be working out on OBS end, but it's just not happening. Alright, so anyway, that's pretty much it as far as anything newsworthy on my end. Have you got anything else to talk about, or do you just want to call it a night?
That does it for me for tonight.
Alright, so I'm just gonna stop recording in about a minute. Yeah, we are still trying to work out the bugs on the live stream, which is pretty much one of the reasons why we're going ahead and doing this tonight. So yeah, we briefly had the live stream up and running in real time. So we're gonna try and play around with it and see what we can do as far as working the bugs out. If you do like what you see and hear, please feel free to subscribe and hit the bell icon. And please go over to Patreon, become a subscriber. By becoming a subscriber, you'll get access to all the goodies that you see in the sidebar, and also you'll be helping us to keep the lights on, and also improve the quality of the stream. So anyway, this is Michael Wilk and Larry Bernard for the Wilk Report saying take care Good night. We're out.